We'll give folks a minute. Weather watchers, let's hear the forecast. Wherever you are, what does it look like outside? We just had a call and I've heard it has not started spring. There's a dusting in Worcester. And but yeah, please share your weather reports. I think some disappointed school closure cheerers fors, maybe. Oh, 413, nothing yet. All right, snow and Concord. I know, 9 to 11 inches rain. It's right. We're starting snowing Northampton. All right. Well, we're so excited today to be continuing our series with folks with no small feet. I see Rachel and Jen. Just want to acknowledge again how happy we are about this series and this partnership. It's just been great and we're all learning so much. So I'll turn things right over to you for today's update.
Good morning. Thanks, Amy. When you were talking about the snow, it just had me think I have a teen who is now driving by himself to school every day, and it takes on a whole nother game when you're worried about snow and your 17-year-old driving in it by themselves. So, anyway, wish me luck, everybody. Um, hello, good morning. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Jen Valenzuela. I'm the executive director at the Children's Trust. We are a public-private organization with the sole goal to prevent child abuse and neglect for Massachusetts. Um, Today, I'm going to talk to you, if you have not been any part of the conversations that we've had so far on No Small Feet. I'm going to first just explain to you what this is, what this effort is, and then I'm going to go into one of the priorities that came up earlier this year for the No Small Feet group that met. And we'll do a quick hit, and then you'll be able to see how you can get more involved if you want to next week on the specific thing. So No Small Feet came around earlier this summer when a group of about 100 people came together to really start talking about the current federal administration and the impact this is going to be having on our children. We've already started seeing significant impacts. We've seen some of our Head Starts close. We saw a month of no food for children and families that were on SNAP. And so earlier this year, knowing that some things were going to be coming down the road, we wanted to think about how we could bring folks together across the Commonwealth to have a common voice and advocating for the kids with decision makers to make sure that they were keeping our kids front in mind. So No Small Feet was created. It's anybody who cares about our children and families and making sure that they are well. We have come to this as our identity. So we are convening partners across systems. We're connecting the data and the funding and the stories to make sure that they are heard from, again, decision makers, funders, legislators, folks out there who are having to make those decisions. And then we're wanting to make sure that we're communicating the impact and urgency around the cuts that are happening for families. So when we met in June, we had about 100 folks who came together, and we were talking about what the priorities potentially needed to be and what we wanted to focus on for children and families across the Commonwealth with this administration and the attacks on kids. We spoke last week, or Rachel Gwaltney spoke to everybody last week and talked about the Family Resource Center's work that is happening in Massachusetts. Today, I'm going to talk specifically about preventing neglect. That was one of the other priorities that came up from the group at the No Small Feet meeting in June. And then next week, we have time scheduled around the data and technology. So we will come back next week and talk more about that priority. So today we're going to talk about the preventing neglect. So we are doing work around how do we reduce the number of 51As that are going out on children and families for neglect. We know that mandated reporters, so that's many of us. I'm a mandated reporter as a clinical social worker, and we file on a regular basis for children and families. And sometimes there are alternative paths that we can take as mandated reporters that does not have to include the child welfare system. It could actually include more supportive mechanisms for families. And right now in the Commonwealth, we just don't have systems in place that gives a teacher or a social worker, a doctor, whatever your mandated reporter role is, we don't really have the great system set up so that you can go to the support mechanisms first before you go to DCF and file on families. And so it's a real issue for us as a country. It's a real issue in the disproportionality and the number of Black and Brown families and children that are being reported on disproportionately from their white counterparts. And we know that there is a role that bias plays for all of us in making decisions and if we're going to file on a family or not. In Massachusetts specifically, in fiscal year 2024, there were almost 93,000 51A reports filed. So if you don't know what a 51A is, that is what we call in Massachusetts. Anytime you make a report to the Department of Children and Families and say, I am concerned about this child, I believe that they are in imminent harm or danger, and somebody needs to protect this child, can you please look into it? And when you file a 51A and make a report, you have to both call the DCF hotline and you also have to write a written report and send that in within, I think it's 48 hours. And so I filed a number of those. And, you know, hindsight, as I look back at my practices and how I did that as I am older and wiser and, you know, have the experience of being a parent myself now, I know I'm practicing much, much differently now as a 50-year-old woman than I was as a 25-year-old new graduate out of school. And we want to make sure that everybody across Massachusetts as mandated reporters are really looking at this decision to file in a more nuanced way than what we may currently be doing as professionals. So where we are really focusing our efforts on this reducing neglect initiative is on the far right side of the screen. So when you file a report, DCF has the immediate decision to make if they're going to screen in that report or if they're going to screen out that report. So the screen in is on your left-hand side of how this workflow goes. So about a little less than half of the reports that they receive, they say, yes, we're going to do more work with this case. We believe there's enough information we've received that we want to investigate further to see if we're going to then substantiate it. So we're not talking about those reports. We are talking about, for this effort, the ones on the right-hand side of your screen, which is the 51.4% that DCF immediately says, we're screening this out. And there's many, many reasons why DCF will screen out a report. But what is often very surprising for people is the reports that they are sending are getting screened out. And so oftentimes as mandated reporters or as early educators, we are reporting a family and a child because we need support for that family. We believe they need the support, but flip a coin because you have a 50% chance that actually even anything's going to happen with that family and if DCF is even going to be involved with that family. We hear from a lot of educators who will say sometimes I file, I'm really worried about this family and DCF keeps screening it out. Well, there's a reason why they're screening it out because the what is coming into them is not by statute what is saying is definition of abuse or neglect. And so what a great opportunity then for us as providers, as educators to be able to say, okay, maybe it's not the reporting that I need to keep doing. I actually need to get this family to the support mechanisms that what is out there in the community that I'm so worried about for this family. Is it the parent's mental health? Is the child chronic absenteeism? Is it the child needs glasses and they were screened by the nurse and know that they are not able to see and the parents aren't taking them to get their glasses? Is it you're worried that they're homeless and they're living in the car and you're concerned about the safety for the child? Whatever the different reasons are that we file on children and families, there are many times opportunities for alternative pathways. And so if you look here, the second column here, it says school personnel. That includes early education providers. And so that is where a lot of this group here falls in there. And so the top number, 56%, that is the number of the reports that are immediately screened out. So that screen out number that I'm talking about, our educators, we know, are not having a great result when they're doing their reporting. And so even more so, we want to talk about how can we support you all so that you can support the families in a way that is getting them what the services and things that they need. We have a vision and a goal of what this work is looking like and what's happening. So we have this is such a truncated talk that I'm doing right now, and so we have a 25-person steering committee, leadership steering committee that includes state leaders across many of our state agencies and that are working with children and families. So folks from housing and livable communities, from health and human services, and from education. So those three secretariats and the departments within them all have representation on this leadership team, our steering committee. And then we also have sector leaders as community representation. And so we have someone from the medical space. We have someone from the educational space that is from the Associated Federation of Teachers. The union. We have folks from parent leadership, from dual lived experience, from Casey Family Programs, which is a child welfare prevention national organization, and a few others that are on the steering committee that has been working together since the spring. So this group together has pinned our vision and our goal. We're still making small edits today on this based off of some feedback that we received earlier this week. And so, but for the most part, the vision of this effort and the work that is happening across the Commonwealth is really looking at how do we get our Massachusetts to be a place where our kids and our families really can get access to those resources and they are able to find community-based supports and support workers, us, when they need us, where it's needed, and so that they're able to access the village that we all know it takes to be able to raise a family. And then our group's goal, so what we are trying to do specifically is really think about the support for families, for mandated reporters, and for our community organizations to be able to partner with families and to really think about how are we even preventing the engagement of child welfare when possible. So what's important to understand about this work is this initiative is not about physical abuse and it's not about sexual abuse. This is solely about those reports of neglect that we make as a profession. And it's those really nuanced gray of like, I'm not really sure, or I'm just concerned, and maybe DCF can help. Those are the cases that we're really talking about for this work. This effort is not about abolishing child welfare. This is not about eliminating the Department of Children and Families. I say this over and over again as a clinical social worker. I still work in the emergency department at Children's Hospital, and I've seen plenty of cases where we need DCF, and we've got to have some type of system in place where our children can be protected when they are in harm. So that's not what this effort is. This is really about us as mandated reporters, for us to take an opportunity to look in the mirror, to really think about the work that we do, and that we are actually the people that are sending our children and families to child welfare institutions. And so what are the things that we need to do as mandated reporters and family support workers to actually make a difference for children and families and to prevent the engagement of child welfare? And so we're really looking at this, trying to go as far upstream as possible. We're looking at this as the prevention. We want to make sure we're reducing trauma for families. You know, when you file, sometimes the family doesn't know if you don't tell them about it. If it's an immediate screen out, DCF does not contact that family. So they may never even know. But if the family does know, and it can sever the relationship for you, you may be one of the only places that family feels like they have a connection. And so there's a real opportunity here where we can just do better. We can do better in the training for all of us around how we engage with families when we're worried and concerned, how we make it so that it's in partnership and then it's not this adversarial or it's not this like looking over families. So can talk a lot more about it. We will be having actually a convening in person next Thursday on December 11th. We also just did a webinar and we will have that available if you missed it to be able to learn more about this. Um, for those that are listening to this and say, yes, I believe this is something that I want to move forward and I want to be a part of, then Thursday, December 11th, you are invited. It is an open door. Liz is putting in the chat the link so that you can register for that. It is all day. It is really the time that we are going to be rolling up our sleeves. We are breaking out into working groups and we will start building out what are some pilots that we can do around this across the Commonwealth. And what do we want to prioritize? What do we want to think about? The This is not up for debate. So this is in that why I say that is that sometimes folks wanted to talk about like, well, is it really a problem? Do we really need to think about it in this way? Is it specifically the mandated reporters? This is where we're going with this initiative. And so if you are ready to roll up your sleeves and be in that, come join us, come be a part of that. If you want to talk more about it and you want to understand more about that before you were to get involved in that, there will be other opportunities to have those conversations. And I'm going to stop talking now so we can go off mute and people can ask more questions.
I love the 9:30 call clock. I've never seen it that way. Thank you so much, Jen. I'll run through the chat.
Okay.
Um, Very informative slides. Thank you very much, says Donna Jeanette. Kim Dion shared there is a new initiative in Worcester called Resilient Worcester. It is a partnership of the city and its various departments, Seven Hills, Edward Street, and other social service agencies to identify children who have had a traumatic event happen, police, fire response, and notify the child care program to handle with the child with care. And we have a family navigator at Seven Hills who will assist families who get referred because they are in crisis and locate the assistance that they need, in essence, navigate the resources in the community. So thank for
Love
that.
it. I love the
And
Handle with Care program. And that is actually if you're not familiar with that Handle with Care, well, Amy, you just described it, so I'm not going to say it again. But it's an amazing program that's in some of our communities across the Commonwealth. It's not across the whole Commonwealth, and that is one of the ideas that's on the menu of alternative pathways that we could institute as a state. And so, yes, and also Worcester, like, come, loved what you talked about at the Strategies for Children event. Was that just last month, Amy?
it was.
And all of the work that you all are doing around the economic mobility. And that is another conversation that is on the table for this work as well.
And
And I
speaking of
think
that, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I think Worcester's actually the first or one of the first communities to expand Handle with Care into the younger kids. It's in a lot of communities in the public schools for school age kids, but I think we're the first that's sort of using the CCR&R to help reach out to the kids that are actually in childcare.
Love it, Kim.
Let's hear it for the 508. And then speaking of economic self-sufficiency, My Day Morales, who was on the panel, who's at Worcester Community Action Council, is going to be on the 9:30 call on Thursday. She was one of the panelists that was on the last panel that spoke about kind of this economic self-sufficiency and all the work they're doing in Worcester. Enda Cabral shared in the chat, thank you for sharing this data. Since most reports end up not being substantiated, do you know what are the most concerns that mandated reporters are submitting? I'm also wondering whether data shows any connection between these reports and cultural differences, either from the reporters' perspectives or the family's cultural backgrounds.
Great questions. There's not a ton of data on that bucket of REIT screenouts. We are working with DCF. They have their amazing partners and are part of this effort as well. We are trying to dig into those 50,000 plus reports every year and trying to better understand it. it is not where DCF focuses their data and their time. They are focusing on when the kids go get substantiated and go in. And so they actually have asked us to think about, like, as the group, to think about suggestions for what their drop downs, if and when they do um, improvements on their data collection system, they want to create those drop down opportunities. And so we're trying to put together some recommendations for, like, these would be the next categories to go deeper to better understand. Right now, it's very high level. Um, as far as the racial inequities and all of that stuff, I didn't include this slide in here, but we are reporting in Massachusetts. We're reporting, so population of Black and Brown, we're actually over reporting by that percentage of what our Black and Brown children are. And so we're disproportionately reporting on our kids here. I think it's 1.55 times more for our Black and Brown families. So there is definitely a role here for us. DCF has done a lot of work on their part, where that those, once they come into DCF, that they are trying to correct for any of that bias and work that's happening in their decision making. But we, as mandated reporters, have a lot of work to do, because we're still very much over reporting on some populations and under reporting in others.
And Brian Dixon asked, I'm wondering if mandated reporters are reporting not because they think DCF is an appropriate place for development, but instead because they lack the capacity and resources to support children and families in more responsive and appropriate ways. And Kate Warren Barnes added in the chat, yes, Brian, sometimes mandated reporters file to protect themselves because they are worried about the consequences of not filing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
then
and yes,
so
agreed.
Titus added, this could be a good project for the EC Policy Research Collaborative, reviewing and analyzing the screen outs and look for trends. Kim said the data also ties to some trends in school suspension data in public schools. Um, okay, and there's chat is jumping.
Yay, love
I
it.
know. Well, then okay. And to end this question, Kate said there's some academic research that has been done on this, and yes, this is multifactorial, but cultural difference is a piece of it.
100%.
I also think the support and training for folks who are doing this work every day, right, to understand when I'm teaching sometimes in higher ed, depending on the course, I'll ask, like, what training are you getting around this? Some programs have a social worker, most programs don't. So whose job it is in many of our programs to help make sure that people kind of know the law, know and understand. I think, Jen, you said something which is important about, it's like what the definitions of some of these things are also is really important about then what happens, for what situations.
That's right. That's right. And the question about the training is a really great one, and it comes up all the time in these conversations. There is no, like, one unified training that we have in
Right.
Massachusetts. The Office of Child Advocate has done one for teachers in the DESE, in elementary and secondary education teachers. I believe they are working with EEC right
I think
now
they are.
on
Yeah.
building one out for our early educators. And so that will be wonderful, because then we can have some unified training out there. Currently, it's really different on where you are and what partnership your agency has with whomever that will do the training for you. I'll tell you, I've been at Children's for 25 plus years, off and on, and they just changed the training for the first time after like 20 some years.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's, over and over, you do the same thing.
Jane Lyons wonders, is there an effort to expand mandating reporting in Massachusetts? Also, is there a new tool that DCF is using to distinguishing poverty from neglect?
Great questions, Jane. There is nothing on the table that I know of to expand mandated reporting. All of the data shows that you actually don't want to expand mandated reporting. It doesn't make children any safer. All it does is just add more reports as somebody in this space says, you're just putting more hay on the haystack, and there's no more needles that are found in there. And so you're just making it
Wow.
more difficult for child welfare to be able to do the work with those few needles, those few kids that really do need their support and services. So this work isn't about expanding mandated reporting or mandated reporters. It's about looking at that critically and doing that. And then I don't know about the if DCF has a tool about distinguishing poverty from neglect. That's a great question. I do
Mhm.
know they did revise their policies a few years ago to be more explicit about poverty not being a reason for neglect. That's not on the statute, it's not on the law, but it's their internal policies.
And then Anne is writing to Lisa saying, "Good to see you. I would like some more information on how many reports happen to families with kids and disabilities. I've read research studies that higher rates of kids with disabilities are reported. I know as a white woman, I had police ask me if everything was okay when Robbie had a meltdown. That
Yeah. Kate, if you want to come off, feel free. And great
she answered in
point.
chat for sure.
I know, Kate, you're the chat champ. Um, I don't think they have the drop downs in this and to be able to better identify what this looks like for families. But Kate, did you want to come off and say anything else in this?
Yeah, no, I'll just say quickly that there's a forthcoming report. We did a very small story banking project with families across the Commonwealth who have experienced unnecessary 51As for neglect, and a vast majority of them had neurodiverse and disabled children. And they talked about 51As being filed by the schools when the schools were frustrated that they were unable to meet the needs of the students. And so more to come on that. Stay tuned. That's a little teaser for the report. But yeah, that is a big theme that I hope we can dive more into when we all come together on December 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd
And
love to
Kate,
have you on the 9:30 call to talk about that report.
yeah, and Kate's a big part of this work. So she's part of our backbone team, and we are working hard right now, you all. So we look forward to hopefully seeing some of you on December 11th to join more of this and come
Yeah.
together in this effort. So
And Lisa
changes are
added
coming.
any movement to replace mandated reporting with mandating supporting, thus putting more burden on the system to provide network of sources of services to struggling families. It's 10:01. Jen, you've been so great about sending the slides. These slides were incredible. And thank you, Rachel, for adding in the chat as well. But we'll post the slides. We look forward to the next call next week. And just really appreciate you coming and making the commitment to be here. This is our third call. We'll have our fourth call and then hopefully more in 2026.
Yeah.
But just really want to appreciate you, not just for coming here, but for this incredibly important work that you're doing and the way that you're doing it. So just want to appreciate that.
Thanks, Amy.
All right,
Look
lots
forward
of
to
love
seeing
in the
some of you.
chat. So I will send this to you as well.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Have a good day. So we'll be back tomorrow with Kim Dion, who's going to talk about how to get a voucher agreement, which we know is a hot topic right now in the
Yes,
work that we're
it
doing.
is.
All
Thanks,
right, thanks
Amy.
so much. Oh,
Bye,
Kim
everyone.
rocks, says Tom Weber. All right, see you.